Okay, now you can record.
Yeah, all right, we're good now.
What happens if I lose connection though?
I'm still going and I have it recorded now.
Okay, but if I lose connection, if you're co-host, then it's good?
It'll stay with me. It'll stay with me.
Okay.
Okay, so,
Okay.
wow, I need a cup of coffee now. Okay, this is good. So let's talk about what we're doing. But I need to know why Jasmine is mine. Wasman. Is that
You
just
can change it if you want.
Is that just a misspelling?
It's a Wasman.
All right, it can be your secret.
She's in San Francisco.
Uh-huh.
I went to San Francisco.
Okay, so
You're
let's
in San Francisco?
I'm going to try to be serious here. Would you like to break into chat rooms for a minute, or do you have specific questions for me, or do you want us to go around like we did the last 2 times, I believe, and update everyone? Which would you like to do?
Maybe could we go in like small groups?
Raise hands. How many want to go in small groups?
I'll go in a small group. That's fine.
Oh, okay. All righty. Let's do that. So, is it here? No. Oh, well, do I not have that option as a co-host? Maybe it's up here. Because I don't see breakout rooms as an option for me now. All right, we're not gonna waste time on this. I don't seem to have that. Yeah, I don't have that option. All right, so would you instead like to go around and everybody update everyone else, or would you rather go around and simply ask me specific questions? How many would like to go around and update? How many would rather ask specific questions? How many would like to continue joking around? Oh. All right, I'm taking that one off the table though. I got a few. What happened?
There's a rat.
Oh, I am, yes, I am going to, I'm going to ask that we go around and update, okay? So, Wasmin, would you start us, please?
I could share my screen.
Okay.
Real quick. Oh, it says host has disabled the screen sharing. So I'll just update you.
There we go. There we go. Okay.
Oh, wait.
Try
You can screen share?
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
So this is what I have so far. I started on the title, table of contents, and then I just put the stories in a layout.
Okay.
Yeah, that's basically what I have so far.
Okay, so what I see right now is I see that you've used some master page elements with the bar across the bottom and the page numbers that are in there correctly. I assume that, I can't tell if that's automatic page numbering. I assume that it is. Looks like that looks, because from their treatment, it looks like a master page element. Is that true? Those two things are master page elements?
Yes.
Very good. Okay, and the, let's see, the other thing that comes across to me is the well, first, a good thing that new stories are beginning on a right-hand page. That's good. I see some consistency. We could call it a branding of the book in the use of the bars, the color, typefaces for display type and for text type. So I see a consistency happening there. Um, and yeah, so you have the basic information content in there now in a way that works. So that's all really good. So your next steps will be a couple of things. One is conceptual, and one is going to be typographic, and one is going to be layout. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me start with the conceptual side first. And you're starting with that a little bit because of the master page element branding. But I'm gonna, can we go to the title of the book? Okay, so what we have here is an example of a literal title of what something is. And what I'm gonna ask that we do is have the title of the book be a combination of something that includes a title and a subtitle.
Okay.
And with that combination, one of them being perhaps on the more literal side and one of them being more on the provocative side. Meaning, okay, if I have this collection of short stories and I said that was an example perhaps of something more literal, this tells me what it is. I'm expecting to see short stories inside. It's a collection, so there's more than one.
Mm-hmm.
So very direct, good thing to have. What it's missing right now is something that provokes me in a more inspirational kind of way, or imaginative way, we could say, perhaps, I guess. And we could also use the word literary here, a literary way of pulling me in. So an example of that might be like Calliope. So we have on each issue every year of Calliope, we have that team creates a name for Calliope that is inspired by the work that is submitted for it. So, and that word sometimes is a very esoteric word, or it's a word that is poetic, or it's something that is unusual and unique. And then with it, it has something like Calliope, the art and literary magazine of the University of Pacific. So in that example, the art and literary magazine of University of the Pacific is the literal version, and the name that varies from year to year would be the more inspirational one. So I think I'm asking you to perhaps think of what you want to title this book that is being inspirational, and then you have the two there. And so then it becomes a matter of, well, which one is higher in the hierarchy? Will it be the literary one, or will it be the inspirational one? I have to say that probably in most cases, the inspirational one takes a more prominent role, and the literal one takes a more secondary role. So let's say if we called this collection of short stories Ramblings from the Road. I don't know, it just popped into my head. So this book is called Ramblings from the Road, and we're going to make that one take precedence by either it's bolder, it's bigger, it's more prominent somehow. And a collection of short stories becomes treated smaller, less important, but it is a literal version that accompanies it. Okay, and I think that's going to be something that we all do. There's going to, I would be surprised if someone, pleasantly surprised, if somebody has already done that. So that's one thought: a literal, a title and a subtitle. One that's literal, one that's more inspirational. Okay.
Okay.
Now, another thing that comes across to me right away is you're treating your graphics very bold. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but I need to draw our attention to that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so it can stay very bold. But I'm going to give us a couple things to think about. So this is a something that we're meant to hold in our hands. We're reading it. It's personal. And so we could ask ourselves, does it need to be as bold as it is? And you could have a very good reason for making it very bold. But it is a typical question that we might ask ourselves when we're designing. Because if I put this book, 20 feet away from me, I'm still going to very easily be able to read these graphics. I'm going to be able to read table of contents, for example. I'm going to be able to read the title of the book and your name even. So that's one thing to think about. And again, it's not wrong if you decide to keep it bold. That's just an observation right now, okay?
Okay.
All right, I keep trying to scroll down. So if I go down, and maybe a next thing would be, okay, I'm going to be talking about, and I hope to do this today, is the thing that I want to introduce to us, is the idea of diminuendo. And so right now, I'm just going to talk about it loosely, and then I want to try to demonstrate it after I've heard all of your comments. So diminuendo loosely translates to mean diminishing level of graphic information. That's its more technical definition, but what does that mean? And it kind of means that it relates to hierarchy, where if the title grabs our attention first, and then we might, in a classic way, is that then there's a large letter, or it's in color, or it might even be the first word that is not as prominent as the title, but it's something a little less prominent, but more prominent than the text. And then after that first letter, then I have the rest of that word, that first word, and perhaps the next 2 or 3 words. It depends on the sentence itself, that something happens to those words. And so we've got a large S now. And what we see in many non-designer treatments of this is that's all they do. They just make the large initial letter, and then the rest of the text is normal. So it isn't a smooth transition. It's actually kind of a jarring transition. So what we want to do as designers is do something to the next few words. So if you zoom in on that so I can read what that first sentence is. Okay, so this first sentence is, she was one of those pretty and charming girls born. Okay, my options would be, I treat the S large like you had it a moment ago, and then I look at the phrase and I could say, she was one. And so the HE, the WAS, the ONE, and yeah, and stop there and have those be, I don't know, all caps. Same point size, but all caps. And yeah, we can do that. That's fine. And so let's say those are all caps. The S is larger like you had it before. So that would be an example, not a great example, but it's an example of going from a transition from the headline into the first letter into transitioning in a hierarchy kind of way into the actual story. So I would just make the S on she now a little bigger.
Would it be good if I could also do small caps? Would that be okay?
Yes. So this is only one example. So what you're going to do as the artist behind this is now look at, because of the typeface that you've chosen, what is the most sophisticated way of doing this idea of diminuendo. So I'm suggesting to you that by only making the S bigger and not doing anything to the rest of it, it's a beginner's attempt. And we see that out there a lot. It's probably what we see the most of. However, if you look at really, really good literature, they in fact will go further with it, like we're trying to do here. So I'm still waiting for you to change that S. Yeah, so just as an example right now, if that goes back to a larger point size, for example, so that's baseline shift there.
Get confused.
Yeah, so it's dropping.
Like this?
Yeah, that's fine. So now what she created was a dropped in, a drop cap, because it's dropping into the text. If she didn't change that baseline shift, it would still be a large initial letter, but it might rise above. So let's just take a look at that. Go back and take off the drop cap part, but keep the size. Okay, so it's only going to drop in one line, but make the point size bigger.
Like that?
No, make it bigger like you had before.
Like the point size or the...
Yeah, just the point size. Yeah, okay. So now we have a large initial cap letter where it's not a drop cap. In either case, it is a version of diminuendo. So now we get into this area, the art area of doing this stuff. So you've followed all of the directions that we're talking about. Our question now is that an artistic transition, or is it kind of a clumsy transition? And I would argue that maybe the change from the large S into the small caps is a little uneven. I think the small caps to the regular text is fine. So now we look for other ways to change it. So maybe those are bold small caps, or maybe the S is a lightweight version, but bigger size. So you've heard me, there you go. So you've heard me talk about combining two typographic variables together that by themselves, each one does the opposite. So what I mean by that is, if I look at a variable of size or scale, that when I usually make something bigger, it makes it seem more important. And if I look at the variable of weight, and usually by making something lighter in weight, it makes it seem less important. So an example of this combining two variables together that by themselves do the opposite would be making something bigger and lighter. Because the bigger by itself says more important, the lighter weight by itself makes it less important. So the two together can create a real more artistic kind of approach. Now we're trying to match that kind of idea then with what we do with the next words and so forth. So in this case, we've got small caps, which by itself makes it less important, coupled with bold by itself, making it more important. So does that kind of make sense what I'm trying to describe there, everybody? Okay, so there are many, countless possibilities of combining these variables. So the ones we're looking at here are size and weight. We also looked at that initial letter being where it currently is, as that isn't a drop cap, but it's a large initial letter. And the first version that Jasmine had was a drop cap large initial letter. Either way can work. Now, the other thing that we can do when we start talking about paragraph styles is we can create a paragraph style called diminuendo or first paragraph, where we set up these parameters saying that the very first character is going to be larger or something like that. The next few words are going to be, let's say, small caps and bold. And we do it by embedding a character style that does that. Now, I'm not ready to go through all that with you yet. So I want to introduce this by just using Jasmine's as an example. I think from what we initially had there, that it was a better version, perhaps, of using the drop cap version of the S and drop it in 3 lines, but maybe make it gray. So it's going to be bigger, it's going to be in the text, but it's a lighter value of black. And drop it down 3 lines like you had it first. Let's try, let's look at that.
Oh, hold on. I think I might need to.
No, just go 3. You're okay there, I think.
Okay.
I like the way the drop cap looks better.
Yeah, so do I. So now it's down 3. Now make the size back to a smaller. Well, even that is interesting. Yeah. So, okay, stop there for a sec and click away. Let's take a look there. Yeah, it doesn't quite do it because the S disconnects from the HE too much. That's one of the reasons for keeping it up in the same baseline. So when you do this business, look to see, it's all about trying to keep the flow together. And if we do a different treatment on the initial letter from the rest of the word, be careful that the rest of the word isn't another word, which in this case it is. So it kind of reads like he was one of those pretty, you know, and that's really not what it's supposed to say. So we need the S to connect with the HE. So if we keep the drop down in their 3 lines, we might want to pull the HE to the left more, you know, so clicking in front of the HE, and we're going to do negative spacing there to pull it back. But I think we're kind of going further than I want to go right now. My point is, we don't want to create too much of a separation between the first letter and the rest of the word that it belongs to, especially if the rest of the word is another word, which in this case it is. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then the goal, the goal that I'm suggesting to you here now is to try to figure out how you want to treat the very first letter and word. How do you want to treat diminuendo for the opening sentence of each story? Okay, so that's one of the things that you're going to play around with, and once you have that, you're going to save it as a paragraph style so you can apply it to the first sentence of every story. But you've done paragraph styles and character styles before, so you might get there by me just simply telling you what you need to create is a character style for the initial letter and a character style for the rest of the diminuendo. Then you're going to embed those 2 character styles within a paragraph style called first paragraph. That's the order that has to happen there. Now, for those of us that haven't worked with paragraph styles and character styles yet, you'll have to wait until I can demonstrate that, I think. Okay, let's talk about one other thing here with Jasmine, and then I'm going to move on. So I know that she's just started flowing the text in, but it looks to me like she's opened up the leading, perhaps to the next whole even number, I hope. But what we need to have is a stronger indication of paragraphs. So right now, the leading between one paragraph and the next paragraph is the same, and there's no indent. So the natural thing to do is to put in a return or put an indent. The end result needs to be one or the other. There either needs to be more leading between one paragraph and the next, or an indentation to indicate a new paragraph. But the way that we want to do it is as a part of the paragraph style. We don't want to have to go through on every paragraph and hit the tab key, nor do we want to go after every paragraph and hit the return key. Okay, so let's say we've got a paragraph style called first paragraph. We're also then going to have another paragraph style just simply called text paragraph. And in there, there's a place in that definition of the paragraph style where it will say something like space before or space after. And I always think it's better to use space after to do this particular thing. You can do it either way, but it seems like it's a little easier with space after. So in this case, we're remembering how much leading we have normally. Do you have like 16 points of leading there?
I think it's 20. Should I take
That's
it down
20
a little
points
bit?
of leading. Wow. Okay. So if you've got 20 points of leading, and we know we want more leading between one paragraph and the next if we're not doing indents. If we are doing indents, keeping this, you want to keep the same leading. But let's pretend for a minute, or actually take the indents out. Okay, so with indents out, we need more space between paragraphs. Oh, I didn't say you never indent the very first paragraph of the story. You only indent successive paragraphs, but never the first paragraph. It's because we do diminuendo there. Okay, so now we need, we're gonna, after each paragraph, including the initial paragraph, we would, in that paragraph style, we'd go to space after, and we would enter in an amount of leading that is greater than 20, because the amount of leading we have between lines right now is 20. So then you have to look and see how much you want that to be. And usually I would say, in this case, it's probably at least 30. If the leading between sentences is 20, then I would go a half again as much, at least. So you can use that as a rule of thumb, and then you can decide if that's enough, too much. But a half again, the amount that you have between just sentences is a good place to begin. And you enter that amount in the space after when you're defining a paragraph style. All right, I'm going to stop with yours right now. I think that's enough to maybe get you going for the next one, okay? All right, so Madison, let's see where you're at. Oops, you're muted.
I just want to say I'm still making my way through the all of the stories because they're really long. But I got InDesign and I was able to get on now and make all the pages and stuff.
Okay.
So I don't have to do all that. I just have to make my way through all the stories.
Okay, excellent. How many stories have you been able to read?
I was looking at one. It is long, but I think I can put it on my phone and have it read it to me so it can go faster. So
Yeah. That's a good tip. That's a very good tip. So it's almost, you've got an audio book then.
Yeah, then I can just
Nice.
listen to all of them and pay.
Nice. I like that little item. I got to remember to put that on the assignment page. Okay. Tell me again, how many have you actually heard or read?
I make my way through one right now.
Just one?
I'm on one right now. Yeah, because I was doing other stuff and I was trying to get through it. And I realized, I can put it on my thing. I listened to it. So.
Okay. All right. I think we're okay. And it's good that you have InDesign now. And okay, thanks. That's good. Clara, how about you? Where are you at?
So I added like the stories to InDesign, but I didn't know how to lay it out, but like now I know how. But like it's basically the 3 columns right now. You can't see that.
I can if I change my view, maybe.
Okay.
Okay, try
Wait,
that.
here,
Try that
I
again.
should probably get out of this. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, they're fun, but sometimes you can't see anything else.
Can you see that?
I can tell that they're in 3 columns. Okay, so I think maybe my big comment for you is going to be this. When you flow the text in, which you've done, InDesign is going to think you want to keep all of the stories in 3 columns the entire way. And yeah, it's going to think that. I'm going to suggest to you that that's probably not the best thing for us to do in a book. But
yeah, I just, oh, sorry.
yeah, well, sorry, I'll just finish this part. So,
Okay.
but the 3-column grid is a good idea. So you just have to allow yourself to either pull the text box all the way across all 3 columns, or in some, maybe on some pages where you have illustrations, that it's only across 2 columns, or in some cases, maybe just 1. And that's what the 3-column grid is going to allow you to do later on down the line. But you can imagine trying to read a whole story when it's in, yeah, that would be hard, right? Yeah. And so I know I didn't emphasize that enough, I don't think, last time, but the 3-column idea is there as a an extension of this grid idea. And one of the goals for me, for you on this assignment, is to see how you can find flexible ways to use the grid. And I mainly have that goal because, again, when I first was confronted with having to use the grid, I thought it was way too restrictive, and I resisted it with all my spidey powers. And so I didn't like it, and I've grown to like it because over time I've started to see these other options, or other options have been shown to me, and that's what I want us to find. So for you, the first thing is to perhaps make the text box go all the way across all 3 columns throughout the story. And then later, when we add other things, we might be shortening some of them to just 2 columns or just 1. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Now I can, and are all of your text boxes, are they threaded together, connected together? Sorry.
Yeah.
They are. I got my phone in my pocket, sorry.
Oh, actually.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Actually, each story has, because I copied and like, pasted it, not pasted, but like what you said before.
Did you do the place?
Placed in place. I did that to like one story, and then I did the other story too. So it's not like all connected, but like they're all like boxes together and threaded. If that makes sense.
They are threaded.
Yeah, but
So,
like the 2 stories aren't connected.
Okay, good. And if you resize one of the text boxes, like in the first column, does that make the text reflow?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Very good. So I think we're okay here, but I do want to repeat that it's going to, I want you to get into the practice of when you bring text in, and images as well, don't copy and paste. But instead, do the place command for both text and also for images. The only difference is that when you place text, you're placing it in a text box. And when you're placing an image, it's in the X box. That's the only difference. But use the place command for both. Okay, but the good thing here is they're all connected. It will reflow when you resize, and you should be good there.
Okay.
Okay. And the reason that's good is because I'm asking you to resize the text box so that it goes across the entire page, or all 3 columns, I should say, all 3 columns. Start doing that from page 1, and then move from page 1 down. Don't start at the end, start at the beginning.
Okay.
Okay, so I just got a message here that Jay is back with us. So I'm going to try to invite him here. He says, I got a message. He's trying to join us. So I'm sending him a message. and let's hope that he's able to join us. Okay. Let's see. Is there anything else I can answer for you, Clara?
I should be good.
I think you're good. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Let's go back to here. So, Vita, how about you? Update us.
So I haven't really started it because I've been working on my other like InDesign project,
Mm-hmm.
For graphic production.
For your other
So
class.
I've been like trying to learn. Excuse me?
I don't know. We got an echo here somehow. How do we have an echo? I don't know. So
Yeah, so I haven't started this project, but I have some questions. So for this project, so we have to choose 5 stories, correct?
yes, five. Yeah, you don't have to use all.
Even though, so I kind of like read some, and there are some that are like way longer than the other ones.
Yes.
So even though they are longer, we should still like keep the 5. Like,
Yes.
we should, okay.
Yeah, it seems kind of unfair, doesn't it? No, I still want you to use 5. Yeah.
Okay, and also, should we include the folio name, like under, like besides the page number? Like, do we have to like say that, oh, like the section numbers or chapter numbers or?
Good question. This is part of the designer art decision for you. So you can decide if you want to include, or you actually, well, I should say it this way. You decide what information you want to include in the folio. So the first one we looked at of Jasmine, she only had the page numbers. I forgot to say, I'm going to suggest to her that she should have something else in there as well. And I know she's just started with it, so maybe she just hasn't got to that point. But I think you should have more than just the page numbers. Whether you have just a page number on one side only, that's fine. You could also have something on both sides. You might have one side, let's say the left-hand pages are not numbered or anything at all. That's also an option. But let's say that I did that one where the left-hand pages, I have no page numbers, therefore I don't have anything else there either. But the right-hand page, I do have the page numbers, and I also include the, I don't know, the name of that story as a part of the folio. So that would be an example of what you could do. So you have different options here. It's kind of like me saying, well, you can paint your painting in what other colors you want to use, but you have to use cool colors. So in this case, I'm saying you have to have some folio information, but what you choose to put in there is up to you.
Okay.
That help a little bit, maybe?
Yes, yes. And also for the typeface, do we have to use one typeface for all of the stories, or can we like use different ones?
Great question. This is probably the question everybody will have. You actually can do it in 2 different ways. You can choose to have one typeface for the text throughout the book, regardless of which story it belongs to, and a different typeface or different treatment, I guess I should say, for the titles throughout the book, regardless of what the story is. That's probably the most common way that we see collections of stories like short story. That's the most common. However, we also see a version where there's the text type is the same throughout and the headline changes. And the reason for that is that the headline is display type, and that's its purpose is not only to be readable, but also suggest a little personality. You know, so one story that's different from another story might, the changing of the typeface there for the title is helpful for us in getting a sense of, oh, this is a mystery, and this one's a comedy, you know, and that kind of thing. Yeah. So those are the 2 most common ways. It is a third way that's also out there, but not nearly as common, is that I have a different text type for each story and a different display type for each story. And that's also out there, but I would say that it is not as common for a lot of reasons. One is that text type is usually chosen not for personality, but for readability. And you want the personality. So personality, a strong personality for the text type is actually distracting to the reading of the words. But indicating the personality through text on the display type can be a good thing. So I danced around the answer there.
Yes.
Did it help?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Also, for the colors, also like do we like have to like keep a consistency with the colors too, or can it be like different ones?
They're great questions. They are artist designer questions. So any of those things, like the size of the type, the color of them, all of those are design decisions that you have a lot of freedom to decide what they should be. The direction that I want to give you is make those decisions because they help readability or they help the personality or the feeling. I believe that the personality, and I'm not alone here, it's not just me, the personality is best expressed through the cover of the book and through the title of the book and through the treatment of the titles of the stories. I think the readability it takes more importance or takes precedence for the text. So it doesn't make sense to me that if I take the text type and make it a different color, even though that color looks cool on the page, it probably isn't helping readability, right? So that's what I mean by make decisions that help readability for text. And you have the freedom to do way more things to influence the personality and feeling when you're applying different things, colors, size, choice of typeface, and so forth on the title. Okay? And I want to repeat here that because at first this might sound like, oh my God, this is so restrictive, I can't do anything. And what it is about controlling the balance between these little typographic things, you know, the amount of leading, size of type, choice of typeface, weight of typeface, how long the line length is, that kind of stuff, so that in the end, it presents these words in a way that are easy to read. The other day, we talked a little bit about this choice of stories that I gave you. They're not easy stories. They're not. So how can you help them to become more readable by the decisions that you make as the designer? Okay? I think I didn't say this before, but we've probably all had the experience of reading something, a subject that we actually like. This is my favorite subject to like. It might even be my favorite author. But I'm reading through it and halfway down the page, I've lost my way and I have to reread it. Or I'm constantly falling asleep with it and I'm annoyed because I like this guy. I like the story and I just can't stay on it. And the reason 9 times out of 10 is because the typographer, the designer who designed what those words should look like on the page didn't do a good job. And so we're trying to do a good job so that those words are, you know, so we finish reading the book and we think, oh, that was an easy read. I was comfortable. I enjoyed reading that book, even if it was a story that I didn't think I would like, but it was easy to read because of those design decisions. Okay? All righty.
Thank you.
Yeah. Selma, how about you?
I think I got it. Everyone else's questions helped, so yeah. I haven't really started much. I was just going through, like trying to find how to get the text in because of the columns. It's kind of difficult, but I'm just figuring that part out. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, it's hard for me to tell, and I just start jumping in. How many, have you picked 5 stories?
I haven't. I read through the ones that you posted, like all of them.
And do you have other ones that you're thinking of? Are you going to substitute some?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
And that's where my problem was coming, because I couldn't find like how to like put it in from there, since it's not like what you posted like as a PDF.
Oh, I got
like,
it. Yeah.
So I was trying to figure that part out. I think I just need to, yeah.
Okay, so what you can do, are you finding them in other books, or are you finding them online?
Online.
Okay, so if they're online, you should be able to select the text and copy and paste. So I would paste them into Microsoft Word first and do spell check in there. And then save that Word file that you place in InDesign.
And should I save that Word file as a PDF?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, now the other option is that you have a book. You have an actual book that you can't find a version of it online, and you want to use that story here. So one thing that works, it would take you a little more time, but it works. And I think for a number of you, I've suggested the Adobe Scan app for your phone, usually when we're advising or you have a form that we're filling out. And if you take pictures using the Adobe Scan app, it will save it automatically as, you have to do it one page at a time, but it will save those pages as an editable PDF, meaning that it will recognize what it takes a picture of as actual words. And sometimes it thinks one word is something else. So you do have to go through and look at it more closely, but at any rate, you could take that picture with Adobe Scan, save it as a multi-page PDF, open it up in Acrobat, or actually, you wouldn't even have to open it up in Acrobat. You could open it up in Word. And
yours didn't open up in Acrobat for me when I downloaded your stories. They just opened up in Word for me.
Yes, the ones that I've supplied here,
Yeah.
I said, yes, those are Word documents.
Oh, okay. I was going to say mine came up in Word.
Yeah.
In Word, though.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about ones that if you had an actual book and you wanted to use one of those stories to substitute, you could take a picture using the Adobe Scan app. It would save it as an editable PDF.
Oh, okay. I was good because I misunderstood. I thought you were saying that she needed to from like if she was going to copy it from like the internet, because wouldn't she just be able to do that also in Word too, just like what you did?
Yes, exactly. That was my first example. I think you were playing with your cat.
Me? No, I heard you say that she had to put it in PDF, and I'm like, why?
Yeah, no.
My cat's not in here. I closed the door today.
Yeah, the first version would be the easiest.
Okay.
Because you can just copy and paste from the text off the internet. But I'm saying that another option, if you have a story you want to use, and it's out of a printed book and you can't find a digital version of it.
Okay, I misunderstood what you said because I was like, wait, but
I'm just giving you a hard time. So
he's not in here today.
So Selma, does that help a little bit then in getting all the stories you want?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think we're fine. Just keep doing that then to get your stories, and then use the place command to bring them into InDesign.
And they should be as PDFs when you're putting them in, like.
No, it should be Word. So sorry, I shouldn't have brought up that other example. I guess it just confused things. let's just go to the internet, copy text from there, paste that text into Word, where you can do just a very basic spell check and everything there. Save that file as a Word file, and at that point it'll be exactly the same kind of thing that I've given you. You'll have the same thing. So then you just go to InDesign and place it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and then sorry, another quick question. So for like, what pages do we need do we just paste it like 1, 2, 3, 4, or do we paste it?
Don't say place. I don't say paste. Place. So if you paste it, that's when you'll run into some other problems. Don't paste. Place.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So if we place it,
Yes.
do we place it in order just from like, because I don't know how to explain this.
I think I know. I know. So if you go to page 1 and you click in the top left corner of the text box on page 1 and you use the place command, then your computer's going to ask you, well, what do you want me to place? And you navigate to the Word file that you've saved. You select that one. Then it'll come back in InDesign and it will flow all down that text box. And at the bottom of that text box, remember, if there's more text to the story, that little box on the bottom right-hand side will turn red. You click in that little box and go to the next page or the next text box and click, and it'll flow the rest of the story. And again, if it's not all showing, the box in the lower right will turn red. So you click on that one, load up the icon again, and click the next place where you want the story to go. So you keep doing that until the entire story is there. Now there's another option that InDesign has where it automatically flows in. And I'm kind of not talking about that right now because I think I'm just going to complicate things. So we're just learning InDesign. Okay, so, but does that make sense in general? You're clicking, it'll flow down as far as it can go. Then the little box will turn red. Click in that little red box, go to the next page, click, it'll flow as far as it can go. If it's a red box, it means there's more to the story. Click in it again, go to the third page, click, it'll flow as far as it can go. And you keep doing that till the whole story's in.
And so do I manually fit it to the pages?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so if we have a 3-column grid, 3 columns on there, what I've been suggesting is just to pull the text box all the way across all 3 columns. And then if you placed it in there the way I'm talking, it's going to just push the text over to the next page. It'll do that by itself. Okay?
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Sure. Is it Lolly?
I think I'm good. I looked online just to double check with how to, put the text in and formatting. I want to double check with you on how big the book's gonna be, because I know on the graphic design webpage you have it as 8.5 by 5.5. I wanted to double check with you if you're still keeping that, or if we're gonna do
the size is up to you.
Oh, the size is up to us?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Okay, I wanted to double check on that.
Yeah, good question.
Sure if we were still doing that or not.
Yeah. No, good question. The size is up to you, both in terms of its height and width, as well as its thickness. So that will all vary according to which stories you pick.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So 8.5 by 11. If I've got 8.5 by 11 in there as the suggested size of the book, that's a mistake. I need to go correct that because I can't imagine I would have said that on purpose.
It's because when yesterday when you had us laying out and you told us how to do it, you said 8.5 by 11.
Oh.
So I thought the same thing. I was like, that's kind of a weird size, but
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for asking this question.
we can change it.
In my demo the other day, when I picked 8.5 by 11, it was simply to get started with InDesign, and that's a standard size. But the size of your book is not 8.5 by 11. That size is up to you, and it's rare that it would be 8.5 by 11. That's just a standard page size.
But it can be 8.5.
It could be.
Okay.
But it's not a normal size.
I'm glad to hear that, because I didn't like that size.
No, I don't either.
Okay, yeah. Like I had kept the default when I was putting in stuff, and then I remembered, oh wait, he has a, where it says like 8.5 by 5.5. So I actually went and made a separate thing to check how small it is. I'm like, that's kind of small. Looking at, I was wondering that, so I wanted to double check.
Okay, yeah, the 8.5 by 5.5 would be what is called a half letter, and that would be an easy way to go because of the printing aspect of it. But you don't have to keep those same sizes. Let me answer that a little bit further. So an 8.5 by 5.5 page, when we see the spread, we're seeing a horizontal 8.5 by 11, right?
Right.
Okay. So the reason why I'm saying that's easier is because now we're putting in a regular standard piece of paper. It's going to print a page on either side of it. We're going to send it through the printer again and print 2 more pages on the back. But the idea is that when it's open, we're seeing a landscape 8.5 by 11, and we don't have to do a whole bunch of trimming.
Okay.
Okay. And the way that the print booklet function works in InDesign is that there is a setting in there for printing a pamphlet at half letter size. So many times, the very first time you use the InDesign print booklet command, it's complicated enough. So by picking this 8.5 by 5.5 page size, it kind of simplifies that a little bit. And so if you felt like, oh my God, this stuff is all way too complicated in the first place, it's too technical, or there's a lot of technical stuff involved with it. If you're feeling that at all at this stage, 2 things. 1, be sure to ask me a bunch of questions as you're doing, as we go along. And the second thing is that, then do some of these things that I'm going to suggest along the way that will make that easier. So choosing an 8.5 by 5.5 page size is one of those things. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Did you have another question in there?
No, that was the main thing I had, because right now I've got everything pasted, but everything's on a 8 the default, the 8 by 11. So I had remembered the on the website it said an 8.5 by 5.5. So I started questioning if we were going to keep going with that size, or if it was okay to just go with the default when you're going in. So I just wanted to double check on that.
Yeah, it's a good question. Thanks for asking it. I think I think we're good there, though. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So Jay did not join us. So let me try just a second here. One more way that I can possibly communicate with them. Let's see. Come on. All right. Okay. Hatsine, how about you? Oh, unmute. There we go.
Sorry, I'm trying to unmute, but you know what's funny is doing this from the iPad is that I'm trying to like use my my mouse, and my mouse doesn't work with my iPad.
Oh.
So because I'm on my iPad, I'm gonna do something real quick. I'm gonna switch my camera.
Okay.
And then show you this.
Okay.
So I basically, all I've done, so I've read all of them, and I picked my 5, and then all I did was flow them over. So they're all in there now. Of course, I haven't really decided what, now that, because I was like, okay, if it is 8.5 by 11, I don't like the way it is, and I wanted to ask if I could change that. So now that answered one of my questions.
Okay.
So that's why I only put it over, I just, kind of put it over 2 columns out of the 3.
Okay.
And I was going to ask you, that was going to be one of my questions, was can we change the size of this? So that's good. Because basically I have them all starting new stories starting on the right page. I have the numbers in the master pages. So they're all going in there, but that's as far as I've gotten.
Okay.
I am reading on, and because I was trying to, get ahead also with the other book that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
For the other class, I was reading ahead on how to do the working with the paragraph style. So I was going to try doing some of that on my own before you went into
Very good. Very good. Okay, let me go a little.
So that's as far as I've gotten.
Okay, let me go another step here with the size of the page, because a huge influence on the most basic thing of like, do we like the look of it or not, is not just the size of the page. In fact, it's more so, how does the text and images, but in this case, how does the text sit within those dimensions? And the biggest influence on that are the margins. So I want us to first conceptually think of the margins like a mat on a painting or a drawing. Okay, so we've got that all in your head, visualizing that. So usually when we look at, or you mat a drawing or a painting, you don't make the mat equal all the way around, do you? So usually it's one of 2 different things. It's either that the top and right and left hand side are the same, and the bottom is a little heavier, or the top is narrowest, the right and left are a little bit wider, and the bottom is heaviest. And there might be other variations in there as well, but my point is they're not equal. They are different. Rarely do we have the same size mat border all the way around a drawing or a painting. So we're going to think of the margins on your page like that. That's what I mean by conceptually.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now the question is, well, how do I decide how much bigger or how much smaller should the top, bottom, and sides be? And I'm going to first explain it as if we were looking at a single page, not a spread, but a single page. And I'm also going to have us remember what I've mentioned to you guys before about proportions being determined by the golden section or golden mean. And so the easiest way to create the golden section and golden mean is with a number series, which is the Fibonacci number series. So the Fibonacci number series starts with 1. The second number is 1. The third number is 2. The fourth number is what? So I have 1, 1, 2. What's the next number? It's 3. What's the number after 3?
5.
5. And what's the next number?
8.
Very good. So Gavin's got it. He wins the lottery. How many of the rest of you? And so Gavin, how were you able to win the lottery? What was the secret behind that puzzle?
All right, so the Fibonacci number sequence is adding the last number to it, to the next number, or adding the number, basically. So like 1 plus 1 is 2, 1 plus 2 is 3, 2 plus 3 is 5. I think I messed up somewhere, but
you got it.
Plus 5 is 8.
Yeah.
So it keeps on going like that until
yes. So do you have to memorize the series?
No.
No. You just have to know it starts with 1, and then you add the 2 numbers together. You know, the 2 previous numbers together to get the next one. Well, 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus the previous number 1 is 3. 3 plus the previous number 2 is 5, and so forth. That's what it is. Okay, so that's the first step in knowing what to do, is know that series. Okay, know what the series looks like. So
and to be able to add in your
yeah.
So in your head, because not everybody can add in their head. They have to do it on paper.
Okay.
Just saying.
Yeah, we can use it's okay, permissible to use a pen or pencil and paper.
I can draw. I cannot do math in my head.
Okay, but we're not talking about big numbers here. We're talking about
I'm talking about little numbers.
Okay. All right. Well,
I'll be real honest.
Okay, well, let's do it visually then. So write down 1 and write down another 1, and then just look at the 2 and add them that way. That's perfectly
I had to write it down.
This is funny because I actually wasn't too bad at math in school. So it's like I'm good at math, but I'm taking art.
Yeah.
I was the worst. Actually, I was the worst in math, especially in middle school, high school.
I was good in math up until I took AP Calculus in high school.
No, I got a C in math with a tutor. Let's just put it that way. And I'm not ashamed to say it.
AP Calculus was a mistake for me in high school.
I always want to take geometry, but never did though.
So the next number is 13 though.
Yes. Because 8 and 5.
So then the next number would be 21.
Correct.
See, I'd have to add that on a piece of paper. I couldn't do it in my head.
Me too.
Okay. And I think that and when we get up there, I would as well, because I want to check and make sure, because I don't want to screw that up. Okay, so that's perfectly okay.
Someone has a question.
The key to making this work is not that you have to do it in your head. That's not it. But the key to making a dynamic layout by using the Fibonacci number series, because that's the basis of the golden mean and golden section. That's the point. So if you do it in your head or write it out to do it, either way is perfectly okay. That doesn't matter. Okay, we just want to be able to do it. Okay, so the next step though is, okay, I've got this number series. How do I apply it? And so I'm going to share my screen here a minute, okay? Yeah, I guess I'll go directly to. Okay, so I have I did it as a single page, not a spread first, and it's horizontal, as if I would be printing a letter half. So this we would end up looking at a left and right hand page here on this. This will still work. So and we can see that the margins right now are even all around by default. We already know that we don't want to stay with default on anything because that's average, that's unique. It's not unique. That's just a place to begin. So conceptually, we're thinking of those margins like the matting of a drawing, where the bottom would be heavier, and I'm going to use the version where the bottom is heavier and the three sides are equal first, okay? Because it's just simply the easiest one to do. So if I said, and I use the number series, and I'll use 1 first, and I'm going to say that this distance is 1. So if this is 1, that's 1, and that's 1, and I know the next number in the series is also 1, then right now I have a version of the golden section, but it's not very dynamic, but it is a version. So what I want to do is create something that's more dynamic. So I'm going to move further up the Fibonacci number series and not start with the first one, number 1, but start with the second number 1. Remember, the series is 1, 1, 2, 3, and so forth. So I'm starting with the second one. So this is, and I want these to be equal. So there's the 1 is applied to these 3 sides. And this one down here is going to be 2 then. So I would just double this. So how do I do that? So I'm going to go to Layout, Margins, and in the margins right here, I don't want this, go away. Why is this up here? Go away, there. So this is, I think, where it gets a little confusing at first, because my Fibonacci number series is 1. So I have to think of 1 equals whatever is in here. And in this case, it's 3P0. So that's 1. And I want it on the top, the left, and the right, but I want the bottom to be 2. So I'm just multiplying whatever this number is in here by 2. So instead of 3 picas, this is now going to be 6 picas. So I okay it, come out here. Oops, sorry, I forgot one thing. By default, these are linked, making them all equal. I don't want them to be equal now. So I click this little chain to undo that, and I'm going to put this back to 3 on the top and on the left and on the right, and the bottom is double. Again, it's because this equals 1, 1, 1, and I want 2, so I am multiplying this by 2 to get 6. Okay, so now when I look at it, we can see we have 1, or it's equal on the left, top, and right, and the bottom is twice that size. Does that part make sense to everybody? Somebody's dog liked it.
Sorry, that's my dog.
No, that's fine. I'm glad that he likes the Fibonacci.
I forgot it. I forgot I was
unmuted. Okay, so now let's make it.
Dog too.
Let's go to that other version I was talking about. So I'm still going to start with the second one, but I'm going to make the top 1, the 2 sides, I'm going to apply the 2, and I'm going to make this one then 3. So we go again back to margins. I'm going to leave the top at 1. The left and right are now going to be doubled, so they're going to be 6. And this one down here, it's 3, so it's 3 times whatever this number is. So that's going to be 9 now. And I okay it. And now we see this. So I have 1, 2 on the left and right hand side, and 3 on the bottom. so that's an example of how we apply the number series to the margins. I don't have to start with 1. I can start with 2. I could start with 5. I could start with 13. I could start any place within the Fibonacci series that I want. But then what I need to do is from that point go, I think it's easier to begin with whatever number I start with, that's the smallest one. So if I start with 13, I'm saying 13 is the smallest number. And obviously I wouldn't be doing it here. I'd end up with a page that was this postage stamp size. But my point is you do not have to start with 1. But whichever number you do begin with, then go to the next successive ones. You can't just jump all over the place. Okay, Hatsine?
Professor, sorry. So just so I understand, hold on. I can't see myself, so I'm trying to see.
Oh, sorry. Let me go out of this. Okay.
Okay. So just so I understand, so like I've got this book open here, and what you're saying is like on the margins, it's different sizes around. So like what you're saying is like this is a different size than this over here, this right here, and the over here, right? That's what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understood that's what you're saying. So like you can choose the difference. It doesn't have to be the same all the way around every margin.
It shouldn't be the same all the way around.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what you just showed us was a page from a spread. The example I just showed you was a single piece of paper where the margins were done that way. Mm-hmm. So I need to go to the next version of this. So I'm going to share screen again. And we're going to close this out. And I'm going to do a new one that is horizontal, but I'm going to click facing pages this time. And I'm going to change this to letter half. Okay, so now I need to go not on this first page here. We need to see the spread. So where's my pages? Where did pages go? Where'd my pages go? What can I see? There. Okay. All right. So I'm going to the master pages here so that we can see the spread. And I should say now that this is more realistic now than the very first example when I was just doing it on a piece of paper. You do want to create the margins on the master pages. Make sure you go to the master pages, whether you're doing it as a spread because you're binding your book together that way, or because it's single pages because you're binding it in a different way. I believe that all of us are doing spreads, but okay. So now I need to make these margins according to the Fibonacci number series again, but now I have to consider something else. One is that the inside margin is known as the gutter. It's where the pages fold. It's where, you know, when you open a book, there's a little bit of a bend there where the pages, the piece of paper come out. And you can't see all the way into the gutter because it's where the pages are bound, right? Okay, and the other thing that's important to think about is that the outside margins is where we typically handle the book. We might flip through the pages that way, so we're thumbing it through, or we're just turning the pages, but we're grabbing the book out there on the edge, especially on the right-hand page. So we have to think of that actual way a book is used as a physical object. You know, it's different than seeing it on the screen where we're seeing everything flat. So we're thinking of that as it influences how we apply the Fibonacci number series. Okay, so I'm going to, yeah. All right, so we're going to do the same thing I did earlier. And right now I'm clicked on the left-hand page in the masters. So when we set this up, we'll have to do it first on one page, the left or the right, and then do the other, whether that's right or left, the second time with the corresponding numbers. But so when I first do this, it's only going to make a change on this side. So I've got that selected. I go again to layout, margins and columns, and we're going to apply the version of first it's unlinked here right now, so that's good for me. I'm going to keep the top at 1. The outside means the left side now, because I'm on the left-hand page. The inside refers to the gutter side, which, because I'm on a left-hand page, is the right-hand side of that piece of paper. Okay, so I've got the top at 1. We need one more bit of information here. So in the gutter, since it does fold in, and we don't see all of it, we actually want that amount of space in there larger than the outside margins because of that curving. And it's a good place to have it be, to get a double amount, is to have that this same size as the outer margin, but in fact it's doubled, and we can see that right here. So between where the text would end right there and the text begins over here, there's twice the amount of space between that as there is on the outside. Does that make sense to everybody? I can't see all your faces now because I'm on the screen, but please.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to say that the outside margins in this case, to start off with, are 1. So 1 again equals 3, whatever number is up in here. That's going to be 1. And so I'm going to have that on the inside and outside are 1. I'm going to say the top is 2. So the top is going to be 6 in this case, and the bottom is going to be 3 or 9 pipas. So I okay that, and now this is what that application looks like of it. So to get the same thing across the whole board, I click the right-hand page. Again, I go back to margins and columns, and I have the inside and outside at 3. I have the top doubling that at 6, and the bottom at 9. And so now this is what I'm looking at. So in effect, there's more space in here because it's a gutter. And I want it to be more space because the pages curl in. Okay. Now, this is very hard for me to explain. So I am unsure if it's making sense. So
Makes way more sense to me, because when I was putting it in the spread earlier and I was showing you guys, I was like, okay, I know that it's not supposed to look this way and I want it to look differently, but then now this makes more sense.
So I have a quick question about the 6. How'd you get the 6?
Sure. So I got the 6 because, let's go back to margins and columns here. I got 6 here because that, from the Fibonacci number series, that next number is 2. So 1 equals 3, P0. Therefore, 2 would equal twice that, or 6. And 3 would equal 3 times that, or 9.
What?
Okay.
So 3, basically 3 is the equivalent to 1 in this case, because it was like 1, 1, 2.
I started with the second one. I started with the second one.
Okay.
So from the Fibonacci number series, if you wrote it down and you're looking at it in front of you, I'm not using the first one. So I'm using 1, 2, and 3 from the series. Now I'm applying that 1, 2, and 3 to the numbers that already show up here. So for me, that number that showed up in the beginning was 3P0 for all of them. And I think that's probably going to be true for you guys as well. So I'm saying that, okay, 1 equals 3P0. Therefore, 2 will equal twice that amount, and 3 will equal 3 times that amount.
Okay. Okay, I got it.
Kind of. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to do it a different way now. I'm going to pick a different number and see if that helps or it hurts us. So I'm not going to start with 1. I'm going to start with, I'll start with 2. So I still want that conceptually that same idea, but it's going to start with 2. So that means the inside is now going to be twice this. So it'll be 6. This will be 6. 3 times that. So that's going to be up here. This is my next number. So this is going to be 9. The next number is 5. So this is now 5 times 3, or 15. Yeah? Okay, let's see what that looks like. So now it looks like this. So now I have a healthy border on the bottom. I will, and up here. So what is the effect of this? Actually, let's do it on the other side so we see the whole spread this way. So again, I'm starting with, what did I say? I'm starting with 2. So this 2 times whatever this default number is, 2 times 3 is going to be 6. 3 is my next number in the series. 3 times 3 is 9. And 5 times 3 is 15. Okay, so I get, that's what I now look at as my margin space. So what's the effect of that? If I only have text that's going to exist in here, let's see, fill that with placeholder text, and I have text over here, and fill that with text. Okay, so my story is going to sit on the page like this. I haven't adjusted any leading or paragraphs or anything, but it's going to sit in that space because the margins are the white space. So what the normal feel, or the most accepted feel of that, is that this is now very special. This text is, it's got the luxury of having all of this white space around it. Therefore, it must be special. It's a precious thing. It's that. It's going in that direction. As opposed to if we have, oh no, ran out of battery. No. Oh, I thought my battery went out.
We can see you. We can still see you.
Okay, I have so you saw me go nuts there. My battery is low. I
guess I think has to finish teaching the class.
Yeah. Okay. So let me do this for us quick. So as opposed to that special look, let's do this. All right. Special, easy to read. Your answer should be a resounding no. No, that does not look special. That looks very cramped, crowded, forced in there, not inviting to read. It is the, I'm showing you two extremes. I'm showing you this one, which obviously you should not do. You want to have some margins that help to create some breathing room for the text. Whether you create this much space or not is up to you. It's an artistic decision. But I am saying that space will have the effect of isolating the text, making it seem, what? It's isolated. It's taking it away from other things that might distract.
Right.
Okay? And then it can make it seem quite special. You know, this by itself doesn't, but it's a contributing thing.
Professor, would that also allow for, like, you know, those kind of books, like, I'm just thinking of like some of those like older children's books where they have many stories in them, where they have like a little tiny illustration down at the bottom. Would that also allow room for that too?
Yes. So let's say that we have this kind of thing, and then we decide to put a picture down here. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, so what are we going to put in there? We're going to put, what are we at? We'll put this in there. Okay, so I've got this little picture down here. Is that acceptable to do that in the white space? Yes. It's a design decision. But I might also decide, no, this is sacred space. Nothing goes down there. So it has to, everything, whether it's a picture or text, must fit within this area. But another design rule might be, okay, that's there, but I decide to have my page number down there in that space. Is that permissible? Yes, it's a design decision. So do I put it over here? Do I put it in the middle? You know, so those are all possibilities. But my main point of doing any of this is for us to see the effect of white space on the overall composition or layout. And it is also back to, I think, our original question about the size of the page. And back then I was saying, well, yes, that is it does have an effect on whether we like it or not. But I think a bigger effect is how you treat the text within whatever size the page is. It's the white space. Okay. All right. I took a lot of time there. Let me come back here, and I think that my computer is not going to allow for all of us to go at this pace. So what I want to do here is, does somebody have a question where they feel like we haven't touched on it, or I don't get it, could you repeat? Or it's just something that, well, I've gotten so far, I don't know what to do next. Does anybody have a question like that? Yes, Gavin?
Okay, so like I have chosen my 5 stories. I have to just go in and edit all of them, because a lot of them are really not edited well at all. And so I haven't put the layout for it in the in InDesign yet. So that's about where I am so far.
So these are stories, different stories that you've picked?
Yeah.
Okay. Are they ones you've written?
No. I wouldn't have time to type them all up.
Oh, well, I didn't know if you might have already had them typed.
No, I wish I did though.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. So that's where you're at. That's fine. I think there's a couple of us that's the stage we're at, either deciding which stories to use or bringing them into the layout. We're fine there right now. Okay. Does anybody else have a question they're really either stuck on or any version of that?
I have a question just real quick. So let's say if we've already flowed in the text like I have, and we're wanting to change the, can you quickly tell us, I mean, if you don't have time, it's okay, but can you quickly tell us how we can change the layout size for that page?
Yeah.
If you're already in there.
It's under document setup.
Okay, under document setup, okay.
Yeah, so it's where I was going to margins.
Okay.
I believe it's in that column. I have to be InDesign to, that's when I'm.
It's okay, I can check. I just wanted
One
to
of those
like,
left-hand columns. I think it's in the same one where margins is, but it might be the next one over to the left. But
okay,
I know it's under document setup.
okay.
Okay. Paula.
Quick question. Can I ask?
Yes. Oh, sorry. I thought Paula had a question. Oh, Salma, you jumped to a different location on my screen. Okay.
Okay. Well, just something I ran into most of these stories. Is it okay if it's not like it's still long and it's still like the same length, like 10 pages and whatnot, but it's like not a full story, like they have little sections as well?
Say that one more time.
So like, it's not a full story. It's not like a full made up story. It's just, it has sections.
Uh-huh.
Is that okay? Like it's all, for instance, like a biography of someone, but it has sections like, oh, this part of their life.
And you want to do just one of the sections? Is that what you're
No,
saying?
I could do the whole thing, but
Oh,
I just want to know, is it okay that it has those sections or should it be
yes.
one full story?
Yes, that's perfectly okay. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the way that author wrote and wants to keep those divisions in there. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. And my second question, real quick, how do we give credit or like, how do we, to the person that actually wrote it? Like,
Another good question. So we have three ways. We really have three ways that we can indicate who the author is. One is we've got the title of the story, and then right after it we can say by Salma Zaman. Or we could have an M dash and then the author's name. We could also have at the very end of the story, we could have the person's name there. That's where we see the person's name. And again, it could be indicated by the word by or with an M dash. We can also put it in the folio. So let's say the right-hand page has the name of the story. The left-hand page, in addition to the page number, has the author's name. So these are design decisions. You can decide.
okay, and you could do that with all the stories, correct?
Yes, but you want to be consistent. So if I choose to put the author's name with an M dash on the first story, I've now set a style. That's the way I want to do all of the stories.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
So you're saying not just for her that because she's picking something different. So like the ones that you gave us as options.
Yes.
Like they have the title and they have like by and then the author. So like we can change that if we want.
You can
to
change
one of these
that.
other.
You can change that
Okay.
however you want. Yeah. Consider what I gave you as just bare bones information. You make design decisions of how you want to present that to us. You make decisions about the hierarchy, the grouping, the placement, all of that.
Okay.
You might even have other information that you want to include that I didn't give you. The illustrator, the name of the illustrator.
The name
I
of the
think I did list some of that stuff on the assignment page, like publishing company, that kind of thing. And we've done some of this with our book jacket covers, right? It's the same kind of idea. You can supply, and you can make up the information if you want.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Can we also like draw illustrations too?
Yeah, when we get to the illustration part, yes, they can. In fact, I would encourage you to be your illustrations. They might be your photographs, your paintings, your drawings. They might be portions of pieces that you've done for another class. They might be three-dimensional pieces that you take pictures of. You know, at that point we'll be having illustrations to accompany your stories. I have to remind us that this assignment is a typographic assignment, so the illustrations are secondary to what we do typographically. They still need to be treated well. It's just that the strength of your book should be because of the typography. Okay, now I want to mention one or two things here because we went heavy into this Fibonacci number thing here today. And that can be scary. That can be like, oh my God, what? I thought we were in art. We're talking an awful lot about number stuff. This is not my bag at all. I do not like that. So if any of you are even remotely thinking that, I totally understand it. I'm not a math person. I'm not. But I do see the value in it. Hang on a sec. Lila, give me 5 minutes, okay? So the reason here is my purpose is not to scare you, for one. My purpose is not to make you think, oh, I don't want to be a designer. It's not that. Melanie, I'm thinking of you. That's not it. Please. Give me a little break here on this one. What I want to do is introduce some other things to us, some other tools to us. This is one of those tools. And it's a tool that, it's an important one. And we may have had bad experiences with math in the past, and that's part of the reason why it's so scary. So I am absolutely willing to work with you here to make this so that it makes sense and it actually can add beauty and what I like to call dynamic layout to what we do. And it can help us with that. So just go with me here, leap of faith at the beginning of that, try it, and then we'll go from there, okay? It'll be okay. We're still erring mostly on the art, because I spent more time actually referring to art decisions and design decisions here today if we think about it. But it's that math stuff that all of a sudden jumps up with the big ugly head and makes it scary. So, and that's why it seems like maybe it takes on greater importance than it actually does. It is important, but it is not the only thing by far. Okay? So I apologize. I am basically, it's going to go here any second. So this is recorded. I'll put it on. When I get back home and have this powered up again, I will post that, so it will be on there. You can look back and see if there's something there that you need repeated. I posted most of our last meeting there as well, and. Yeah, we're going to keep plugging away at this, okay? So I think next time your goal should be maybe where Jasmine was today. That you have all the text in and you started to play around a little bit with some of this stuff that we've been talking about. Some of it you're going to be able to do, I think, rather easily. Others, I don't get it. I can't do it. I remember him talking about it. I've looked at the recording and I just don't get it. Don't worry about that. That'll be your questions, okay? But try to get to that stage and we'll go from there next time. All righty? Okay, well, thanks for hanging in there and staying safe and everything. And if you want to message me or email me after I end here about a part of what we talked about, that's fine too. But otherwise, I will see you next time. Okay? All right. Bye-bye.
Hasta luego.
Bye.
Hasta luego.
Adios.
Adios.
Adios.